So the big question is this. We know spontaneous remissions and so-called miracle cures exist. We also know they aren't so spontaneous after all. I'm living proof of this, having cured my quote-unquote incurable illness. There's something to how this happens. So how do we, as humans with chronic symptoms, tap into this so-called miraculous healing capacity? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Dr. Erin Hayford, and welcome to the Sacred Illness Podcast. Before we begin today's episode, just my standard medical disclaimer. This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The content should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical concerns. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Illness Podcast. Today, I have another person from across the pond, Teresa Smith. She's in Cambridge in the UK. Similar to several other podcast guests, I have Lizzie to thank for connecting us. Lizzie, as some of you know, came on our podcast a few episodes ago, talked about her journey with MEN1. And Lizzie connected me with several folks she met. She sought out Teresa because of the healing work she was doing. And so I'm very excited to hear all about Teresa's story today. Teresa is a former yoga instructor, and now she is doing something called Chi Flow. Chi Flow is something that Teresa created. It's something she practices. So we'll talk about that as part of her journey. We're going to be talking about her journey with rheumatoid arthritis today, as well as psoriasis, so a couple of autoimmune conditions, and how that all pieces together and where she's at today. So welcome, Teresa. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here with you. So, okay, let's start with when I got the diagnosis. It was in lockdown, and it was a little bit of a longer diagnosis because I started to just get a pain in my foot. I had hit my toe on the corner of the bed one night. So we went through a little while looking into that. They couldn't find anything. Then both my feet started to hurt. Every time I put my foot down, it was like sharp, like glass sort of pain. So really inflamed. I've been doing yoga since I was 20. I fell into yoga, or yoga fell into me. And obviously, 22 years ago, that must have been now, yoga wasn't around. There was like one yoga teacher back then in the whole of where I live, which now seems crazy because there was a time when there wasn't yoga and yoga pants and yoga everything. But there really wasn't. It was a time when Jerry Halliwell was doing yoga. Like, that's how long ago it was. I had a breakdown where I couldn't leave the house and was suffering with anxiety and panic attacks. And how I fell into yoga, I looked at these prescriptions and I had like 5 or 6, like ones to help me sleep, ones to help calm my nerves, you name it. And I remember thinking, I was 20 years old, like, 5 months before I was kickboxing and had a job and all the normal things. And I just remember thinking, okay, I've got to try and get some sort of life back because I'd lost everything. And as I did that, I heard this voice in my ear go, yoga's good for breathing. And I looked and there was no one there. And I was like, yoga? Oh, I think I've heard of yoga. Oh, okay. And in that moment, I was like, I'm going to go find this out. So that's what led me to my yoga journey. I knew from the first time I watched the video, which was Jerry Halliwell, I knew then that my life would be spent dedicated to helping people with anxiety and depression to get out of it. I got out of it. Then fast forward 17 years later, and my feet are messing up. So I couldn't really do much yoga. The other important bit to mention is about 3 years before this happened, I kept having this same feeling of I was meant to be doing something different. But my mind was very much like, no, I've been yoga girl since I was 20. I'm good at it. I have a successful business. I had a waiting list of 4 months to get in a class with me. I lived it, I breathed it, I studied it. And obviously the universe wanted to move me and I wasn't moving. And then I ended up on a holiday that we should never have been on and I shouldn't have ever been there. And I found Qigong. And I'd never heard of Qigong, but all I knew was I wanted to move my body in a softer way. The yoga I practiced was very yang, very fast, handstands, alignment based. And I needed this softness to come in. I'd trained on high meditations in all sorts of different ways. I wanted the feeling of meditation, but I wanted the softness with the movement. When I met Qigong, it was this repetitive, slow movement that frustrated me so much when I first found it. But ultimately, it was going to be a big game changer. And about a year or two later, I'd studied Qigong, but I was still yoga girl. I wouldn't leave the yoga. I was bouncing in between the two of them. And then one day, the pain that was in my feet just went into my hands and they hurt. Every time I moved, I was like, what is going on? And so my yoga pretty much was out because I couldn't use my feet, I couldn't use my hands, like they couldn't do anything. So eventually I had to start practicing Qigong, but Qigong for me is very stiff. It's got a lot of masculine to it, and even the flow in it is very masculine. But I needed movement and calm. So I started to flow and put this together. The diagnosis come through within like a few months because after my hands ached, my knuckles are blowing up. Four of them were really bad where they were blue and purple. I had the MRIs and the bloods and they were like, yeah, this is rheumatoid arthritis. It's really quite fast. And we're going to need to put you on methotrexate and steroids. They're already deteriorating and they're going to more likely need operations now. They've gone too far. And I remember sitting there with the specialist and just being like, that feeling again, the one that led me to the soft and slow, the one that told me that yoga was good for breathing, that feeling. It's been a really good gift, but I call it the bugging voice because it's always the something I don't want to hear. I don't want to move. I was happy, like, leave me alone. But it's like, you're going to move. And if you don't, then we're going to take your hands and feet. So I trust that now. And yeah, I just said to him, surely there's another way. And he went, there's not. And I was like, but do you know what causes it? And he's like, no, we think hereditary, but that's it. I was like, well, no one in my family has it. And I went, well, what about diet? And he went, no, acupuncture. And he was like literally laughing at me. He was really rude. The lady that was with him, you could see she was cringing on how awful he was being to me because I was just generally asking some questions before I signed up for this stuff. And I said to him, well, will the medication stop it? And he went, no. He said, it's an autoimmune. You've got this for life. And unfortunately, it's one of the most aggressive autoimmunes and it will be degenerative. Best we can do is try and stabilize you enough. And we're going to have to mess around with different medications as we go along. And you're going to need to take stomach liners before you take this medication because it will make you feel ill. And eventually you will end up injecting. And I said to him, oh, I don't want to do this. And he said, well, you have no choice. And if you don't, then it will spread into your organs and you're more like being in a wheelchair in a year if you don't take this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was 37 back then, had little kids, and I just remember thinking, what am I going to do with the kids? How am I going to be the active mum? But there's this voice that went, don't do it. The same voice that sort of said, don't take the meds years earlier. And I just said to him, yeah, I'm not going to take it. And he just looked at me in disgust and was just like, right, well, I'm going to give you an emergency contact number for when you change your mind, when you're in another flare, we'll get you put on it straight away. You cannot heal this. And I said, oh, there's this something I feel that I can, like, somehow I've created this. There's something in me that just went, somehow you've created this. Not consciously did I ever wish it on myself, but somehow it has. And therefore, somehow I can heal it. I just don't know how yet. So I left there and my heart, I'm not joking, was jumping out. I was like adrenaline. And I walked out of there thinking, I don't know what to do. Have I done right? But that set me on the path then to just being, right, let's first look at diet. I didn't eat badly anyway, but my instant thing was, it's got to be food. Everybody said when I Googled it that RA was leaky gut. So it's got to be diet. And went down the diet route. And that caused a lot more fear in me. It caused a lot of fear of all foods because I kept a journal. And if one day I was flaring, I think, well, was it because I ate a banana or was it because I, had meat? It created more chaos and fear in my system, which, as I would now know, was what was actually causing the flare. It wasn't a bit of meat or a banana. So after I messed around for 6 months with diet, there was two people that I met that gave me a little bit of time. Both of them had had rheumatoid arthritis. Both of them had been healed for like 11, 12 years. And they were actually a real gift to me because when you're on a healing journey and you're on Google, there is so much information out there and so many different opinions that it can cause so much overwhelm. But these two people, one of them healed with like raw, green, vegan juice. And the guy had pretty much been carnivore, like, really, really heavy carnivore based and didn't touch a broccoli. So what I learned from those two was, well, if you healed from the opposite diets, the only thing you had in common was that you cut out the sugar, the processed foods. That's the only linkage. And with that, I started to settle. And then I started to practice my chi flow, and I started to really develop the chi flow. And it was on the corner of my bed, most of it, because I couldn't stand. So it was kind of slow. But what I started to experience as I started to slow down was that my symptoms started to be less. The softer I got, the more I let that fear of food go, because that was really spiking my high vigilance, like watching what I was eating, keeping me in fight or flight all the time. And it was those slow movements that then started to get me from living what I call up here to suddenly living in the heart and living in the body and living in the softness. I did look at mind reprogramming and started to become very aware of how my beliefs subconsciously were keeping a nervous system and how much fight or flight I was in. Doing my chi flow, I started to understand that I was holding on to a lot of anger of stories that had happened from young. I held on to a lot of they were wrong, I was right. Or how could they do that to me? I was a child. There was a lot of this in my system. And I remember waking up one night and my hand was clenched, like in a fist. And obviously, rheumatoid arthritis for me was all in my hands and feet. And I remember just having that voice going, "What are you holding on to?" I remember just going, "I've got to let it go." The call for the softness, the call for going slower, the gentle nudges to come out a very yang yoga based practice. And I'm never going to diss yoga because yoga was such a big part of my life for so long. But that yoga was never going to heal me, because for me, while I was so focused on raising my arms up, then down, then coming forward, stepping back, and then holding the poses, I was so focused on the body and so focused on the next move and the breath and engaging my thighs and all of that, that I was missing the biggest part, which was my heart. And that's what all of this was a calling to come down. The softness, the slow, was so I could actually connect with my heart. And it was as soon as I started to get that connection into my heart, that's when everything started to change for me. I'd done counseling and therapy for the stuff I'd gone through as a child. So I've, in my head, believed I had sorted it all out. You know, it was boxed, it was categorized, it was sorted. That was wrong, this is right, this is black, white, hot, cold, very mind polarity. And although, you know, people go, oh, you know, you have to let things go. Nobody tells you, well, how do you let it go? How do you let that hurt go? How do you let that story go? You know, because there are some things that happen to people that are just actually wrong on every level and unpleasant and unkind. And it was really when I started to get slow, that this connection was starting to feel this smile in my heart. And that's one of the things, is the main thing I teach. It's not what you look like when you move. Your breath is very important to slow, but it's the feeling of that smile in the heart and bringing your awareness here. So you start to live as a feeling being and you hear this guidance from your heart. And this was when, by slowing down, I started to become very aware of the voice of my mind. And this is where it got really interesting for me, because I was very aware from yoga training of the swirling mind and all of that. But I started to become, when you're slow and you're quiet, you become very aware of that voice in the mind and observing it. And I used to think, oh, I'm the heart and that's the mind. But actually, when I started to hear my heart's guidance, I realized, well, okay, so I can very much hear the mind, and yet I can hear this guidance from my heart, and they're very different flavors. They're very different energies and frequencies. The mind will be very practical and right or wrong, very polarity, you know, this way, that way, and there's no in between. Whereas the softness of the heart was very much like you could see all aspects, and it always had clarity and always loving and kind. And I thought, well, if I'm not the voice of the mind and I'm not the heart, because I can hear and observe the heart, then who am I? And this was when my practice really developed. My healing come in very, very quickly in January. So I dropped yoga in November. I let go of all my old stuff. I started to become aware of mind reprogramming a bit more, and how powerful the mind was causing the symptoms within my body. Although I was meditating every day and doing yoga every day, I was still living in what we would know now as very high vigilance. I was scanning consistently for danger. Food had even become a danger, from having to look at my diet to constantly checking on my symptoms and my hands and how they're feeling that day. I was up here, and Chi Flow allowed me to get soft. And as soon as I started that, I started to feel love. Because I was relaxed and at ease, I could start to feel calm and peace and feel love. And I realized that I hadn't been feeling those things at all. Like, I'd had moments, obviously, of joy or feeling relaxed on a holiday and stuff, but there was a whole different energy when I was here, and this guidance that was from my heart. That at the end of my practice, issues with the family who I haven't spoke to for many, many years, I would then be in such a frequency of this feeling of love and happiness, with this feeling of a smile in my heart, that I would then see that person. And instead of my mind, I call the pond mind that can only see this much, I was studying what I call the ocean heart. In an ocean heart, I could see that they must have been in so much pain to do what they did to me, and to feel how that must have been for them. Because in all fairness, when parents or people do that to other people, you've got to be in a lot of pain to do that. If I was to do that to my kids, I would have to be in the worst space of my life. So with that opening of energy, of understanding, come a compassion. And as soon as I had compassion, then in come the love. And then with that love, it cleared everything. It just started to clear everything with every single person, because I started to see from a space of heart, of openness and relaxed energy, that I just started to have this energy of happiness and love beam from me. And then worked with that. That's how I reprogram my mind, is from my heart. So, a lot of people go into their mind and that's their way, hypnotherapy and stuff. For me, I have this theory, my work, it was getting into this energy and frequency, which then reprogrammed my mind to how I now see and feel about people, about life, about my work. I just trust. And it's a different way of being. And from the end of January, when I really started to have that spark and get this, and I did work with a mind reprogramming lady. By my daughter's birthday at the start of March, I was having weeks of no pain. And swelling had started to go down a bit. And it started with 2 days where there was no pain. I was like, my God, I could actually pick a kettle up or open a cupboard with my hand in the morning. I think one of my lowest points was I couldn't wear shoes because my feet were so swollen and painful. I couldn't get into shoes. So I was having to wear, in the UK, anyone lives in the UK in the winter, flip-flops to go out in is not a nice space to be in. And I was able to put shoes on. It's like I knew that with letting go of what I was holding on, anger, letting go of seeing the world as fear and people as fear and bad, and being on guard around people, the softness of the heart was just, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. And seeing, rather than their anger and pain, I could see that, God, they just need a lot of love. That's it. It's like they don't need me to judge or criticize. Nobody's asked for my judgment. They just need a whole lot of love, because that's how I was doing with myself now. I wasn't judging and criticizing myself or being hard on myself or negative on myself or on people. So therefore, I started to be that with other people, and it just come really quick. By March, I had a week of no pain. By June, I was back to massaging and my hands were fully recovered. And for anybody listening with rheumatoid arthritis, I know the pain that is felt with it. And I know that, they say you have to have operations, but I want you to look. I have full movement, and all of my joints that were deteriorated, there was two that were really, really bad, that even I remember saying to my husband, I don't think I can get them back. I thought they'd gone too far, the bumps and nodules, but I've never had no operation. And I didn't take one steroid or any methotrexate. I did take a couple of paracetamol a few nights when it was painful, but other than that, for me, it was learning to live in my heart, learning to love, learning to let go, learning to forgive was the biggest thing. Like, I don't want negative energy from any past story, to the point now where I am, I'm 42, this was when I was 37, with the practice of every day getting into my heart. I don't even feel now that those people need forgiveness. I see that we are all souls here. I feel that we are pure soul, whether it's a soul or light being or energy or consciousness, again, whatever word it is. Because I spent so long viewing my mind and my heart, I know that I am the one that's aware of both. And so therefore I am the awareness. And when you drop into the awareness, then I am not any of that anger. I am not any of that story. And those people that have done the things they've done to me, it's wrong. However, they've played that part for me, for this soul's growth to where I am. And so I have a whole lot of gratitude for all of them, because being them's been painful in this life. And so I have a whole lot of love and gratitude for every single one in my past. So there's no dis-ease in my body anymore. The psoriasis cleared first. People always ask me what healed first. I didn't want it to be the psoriasis, actually. I wanted it to be my joints, but my body went for the psoriasis first. The dandruff cleared up, and then it was all of my joints. So I've been good for, is it 3 years? I've not had my bloods taken for 2 years. There's been no reason. But the first year I did go and have my bloods taken because I was curious to see where the RA factors were and the inflammatories and all that were. And I remember I got them on Friday, and I just remember reading the markers and just going like, oh, wow, like I'm good. I mean, I knew I was good, but in the UK, the RA factor, I think anything over 20 is a flag that there's something not quite right. And I was at 12, whereas before I was over 100. And I was just like, yeah, there you go. And people don't want to hear it. They want me to say it was a diet. There's a diet protocol to follow. And they want me to tell them that if they do A and B, that's how you get to C. And it's not necessarily the case. I'm always very much going like, Chi Flow was my way, but it might be dance for you, or it might be yoga lands you in that space. Yoga was never going to heal me. I wanted it to, but it wasn't. I like meditation, but I need movement, and I needed that soft and the somatics to start to release the tension. I'm really good. I will be honest though, I lost my granddad over a year ago, and he to me was my dad. So when I lost him, about 2 days after he passed, my hands started to ache. I remember driving with my husband and going, okay, my hands are aching, because people are always really curious, what, you've had no pain since? And he said to me, how are you doing? And again, I thought I was coping good, but I just went, oh, I'm living here again. Like I'd gone into my head for some sort of protection to function. And it was like, okay, I need to get back in the body. I need to feel it. I need to feel this sadness, and I need to let it come, because that's how our emotions, our nervous system gets full and creates what I believe is disease in the body.
That's incredible. I'm just in awe of all of that. It's such a beautiful, clear arc in your story, because there's not the genetic component. People always want to know why it happened. They want these really concrete sort of things, and it can be very scary and bewildering when there is no clear why, and then there's no clear solution. But I think that's the gift, right? Is that unknown, that question mark, because that's life trying to say you have to lean into your own journey. This is taking you somewhere. And if we just gave you a prescription, whether that's diet or something else, you wouldn't be tuning in the way you need to find your path. And as I was listening to your story, I could see and feel this reality that we are on, all of us are on this journey in life. We have this soul that comes into our body, and there's this arc that we're supposed to be living. And every time we get stuck or get off track, life has a way of being like, nope, get back on path, get back on your path. And for you, it started with anxiety and depression. And that little voice, like you said, whatever you want to call that, intuition, God, your higher self, etc., was like yoga. And it started putting you on that path. But that was trying to get you further, right? It was trying to get you further along. But then when that became stuck, here comes arthritis. So then it's like, no, literally, you can't do this anymore. You have to change gears. And I think the body is so clever in that way. That's a big part of my podcast goal, is to really try to highlight these stories that show how intelligent illness is. How smart is it for the body and the soul to manifest something that literally stops you from doing the thing that is in your way of who you're supposed to become. Illness takes you out of life. It's some sort of pattern interrupt, but I think it can be especially profound when it's literally stopping you from doing the thing that maybe is distracting you or taking you off track or in the way of who you're supposed to become. And that's so clear in
your story. And now here you are, I can feel the ease and flow in your nervous system as you're talking. My nervous system calmed down. I felt so grounded. I felt so peaceful, just, listening to you, feeling your energy as you were describing your journey. It's so clear that shift that took place. Another interesting thing with illness is how it can be so metaphorical. Like you said, there's this holding on to something, and obviously the hands hold on to things. So it was a lot of getting out of that across the board. Like, the medical system is so young. Do this, do that, regimented, stiff and orderly. And everything about your journey was trying to get you to move in the opposite direction and let go and release and forgive and let things move through you and let things move organically, which is just so beautiful. And truly at the core of so much illness in general is letting things go, releasing things, healing things, letting emotions out that have been stuck. The forgiveness piece is huge and challenging, but if we're holding on to that kind of anger, or we're holding on to those stories or that victim thing, it's only hurting us ultimately. One of the things I'm curious about is the defining moment in your story. You were in the doctor's office, he was being a jerk. But is it your personality to say no to people or to stand up for yourself?
I feel that life prepares you for everything. The experience I had when I was 20 was a little nudge on, like, you can heal stuff. Something could cause this, you can heal this. And so then when it comes to me later on with something more major, I had that previous experience to be able to go, oh, but actually this don't feel right. To be honest with you, it wasn't like the other option was any good. It was like a medication, wheelchair, injections. You got to choose one. And ultimately, if that was going to be my future, wheelchairs and medications and all of that, then no. But because they have a white coat on and have gone to medical school, so technically should be smarter, therefore they should know more than me. And that's something on my journey that I've learned. Although I didn't have that knowledge, I actually think I probably am more intelligent and know more about it than he does, and he's paying a whole lot of money. I had to become my own biology teacher. I studied Greg Braden, so he was my heart doctor. That's how where I learned into heart and coherence. All after I developed chi flow and I started to heal, I was curious about how this was working to teach and do this. Bruce Lipton taught me about the genes. I was very science-based back then. I'm more heart and magical based now, but I needed science back then. So Bruce Lipton, have you heard of Bruce Lipton?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, course. This is where I developed the understanding of nervous system. He had 3 petri dishes. This is really interesting for anybody struggling with disease. And they took cells from the same person and put the same amount in each dish. In one dish, they put the culture medium, which is the hormones, the chemistry of what would be in blood. So the first one would be like serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin, all the happy love chemicals in with the cells. In the middle one, they left it pretty neutral, no real hormone. And in the third one, they put cortisol in it. And the interesting thing when you watch the experiment is the cells, as soon as they drop cortisol into it, the cells start to move away, far away. They like go into the edge going like, we don't want that. And then they come back after 24 hours, then 48 hours and watch. And the one with the love and the oxytocin, those cells have grown and filled that dish beautifully. The neutral one has stayed neutral. The fear one, they're dead. They've gone. So that was where I started to learn about emotions and nervous system. I started to click that together from Bruce, going, okay, so I'm in fear. I'm in fear of this disease. I'm in fear of what could be my future from what doctors are telling me. So this is what's going on in my cells. This is what's happening in my joints. I need to get lifted up into this. I need to be in this frequency more. And what I learned when I worked with Mike Brandy, I'd spent many years in the yoga world and in meditation learning to get in the mind, watch the thoughts, watch your thoughts, let them come, let them go. I spent so many years, sorry if I'm dissing anybody listening to this on meditation, but I spent so many years living up in my head, watching my thoughts and letting them go, that I had missed living in my body. And so it was ridiculous, because then when I thought, okay, so if I lift my frequencies, like getting soft and relaxed, bring that smile in, I lift my energy, my thoughts then reflect my feelings. So because I'm feeling happier, I'm seeing things happier and I'm thinking things happier. So then I see things good, and then I get more good feelings, and then I think good thoughts, and it's like a whole cycle. of loveliness. I knew because I was feeling happy and loved, that is being flooded to every single cell of my body. I view the heart as the queen. The heart is the queen. You get her feeling really good. She then communicates to the mind, which is the king. The mind has the final say, but your cells have to work as one. So if I'm feeling coherent and loved and happy, which was my main goal every single day, whether I used a bit of dance, whether it was chi flow, nature, get out, get happy, and get out your own way, basically. And then the heart will communicate to the brain. And because you're feeling good, the brain goes, okay, the heart says we're good, we're safe. They either are in rest, restore, and repair, or fight, flight, and defend and destroy mode. And that was my simplest learnings when it comes to healing, is I need to be in this mode to create the healing. So when I left the doctors, I knew none of this. So no, I'm not somebody that would say no, but I'm also a curious enough person to not put something in my body that I knew wasn't going to help me. Acupuncture didn't really work. I did Reiki, nothing really worked. That was my other point. I kept trying to find the answer on the outside. I kept thinking that the person that was going to do Reiki would heal me. The acupuncture would heal me. I spent £500 to work with some diet guy that was going to heal me. And actually, you don't need anyone. You need a method that serves you to get you in your body, and you are your healing. You are the one that's got it.
Hey, Sacred Illness listeners, Dr. Erin here. If the stories on this podcast have stirred something in you, if you're hearing these conversations and thinking, that feels true for me too, then this message is for you. You know by now that illness is not a random malfunction. It's a message. It's a call. It's a sacred, if not difficult, invitation to remember who you really are. But hearing the paradigm is one thing, walking the path yourself is another. Where do you even begin? How do you translate that knowing into a daily practice? How do you move from listening to the message of your symptoms to actually understanding it step by step and learning how to heal with it? That is exactly why I created the Sacred Illness community. It's a living, guided container for those who are ready to answer the call of their own body. This is where the philosophy becomes a map, where you move from insight to integration. Inside, you'll find my full Sacred Illness blueprint. This is a 9-chapter journey that guides you through the mythic stages of illness as initiation. It weaves together the somatic education, nervous system science, and deep self-inquiry we talk about here on the podcast. But it's more than a course. It's a community. It's a place for growth, not just commiseration. You'll have access to live events, somatic yoga, intuitive eating courses, and a library of EFT and self-hypnosis tracks, and a forum to connect with others who are speaking this same language of the body. This is for the listener who's done searching for answers and is ready to begin the real journey of transformation. Membership is just $37 a month, and you can cancel anytime. And as a thank you for listening to this podcast, you can use coupon code PODCAST, that's all caps, PODCAST, at checkout for 20% off your first month. If you're ready to get started, check out the link below in the show notes or go to mysacredillness.com, enter the coupon code, and get started today. This is your next step. The path is here, and it's ready for you when you're ready to take it. Okay, let's get back to the podcast.
What you said is so important, which is that you had that prior experience with depression and anxiety. You showed yourself that healing was possible. And if we don't have that experience, it's hard, if not impossible, to believe that. I was even thinking of what your doctor said to you. You were hit with, it's incurable. It's going to get really bad. You're going to be in a wheelchair. You have to do this. You're going to have surgery. He laid on so many layers of fear. Anyone who didn't have any sort of prior healing experience would, of course, just be like, oh my God, give me the medication, give me whatever I need to do to even just slow it down. But if our nervous system starts to have experiences that show us otherwise, it begins to open our mind to, well, okay, if it worked for this, why not this? Why not this? What's the pattern? What else is there? And as I had said to you, this is the point of this podcast, is to share stories like this. So if you, the listener, have no prior experience, you can hear these stories and apply it to yourself, because if we could do it, why not you? You are no different. No one is different. We all have this capacity. Our bodies all have innate healing capacity. Our souls all have this journey that they're going on, and illness is here to try to get us on track. And so it's just a matter of finding what works for you, finding what makes sense for you, finding what resonates in your cells. And what's so beautiful and fascinating about your story is that you did a bunch of modalities, and we all do this. We all try different things, but sometimes they work for people. Plenty of people have healed through yoga. Plenty of people have healed through Reiki or acupuncture or whatever it is. But if it doesn't work for you, take heart in knowing it's because you're meant to find something bigger and better. You're meant to figure something else out. And what that thing is might be something that you actually create yourself. It might be something that you are supposed to bring into the world. It's just this constantly reorienting our mind to not seeing it as failing. I'm never going to get better, getting out of that mindset. And I know it's hard, way easier said than done to do this, but to just really practice getting into that mindset of, this is here for me. It's here for a reason. There's something it wants you to get to. And so if it's not working when you go this way, just trust that that's for your best interest, because it's trying to get you to go somewhere else. You had that beautiful intuition, that voice saying, don't do the medication. First, it led you to yoga. Then it led you away from the medications. You went on this random vacation that, of course, really wasn't random, but to you seemed random, that led you to Qigong. And there was that belief too of, which I kind of want to talk to you about too, because this is where I get pushback in the work that I do, where you had that belief of somehow I created this, so somehow I can heal it. And the thing that I get blamed for is when I say illness is here for you, it's here for a reason, people say you're blaming people for getting ill. You're blaming people for their own illness, and that's not okay. How would you frame that for people to make it a more empowering statement?
Yeah, so I get a lot of females that come in and they're very poorly. And when I say that, this is created in your body, not consciously have you asked for Crohn's or rheumatoid arthritis or an autoimmune, but subconsciously this has been created. This is an opportunity. This is how I view it. It's an opportunity. It was the greatest gift. Did I think it at the time? No, which is why I have compassion for the people. I remember dropping my daughter at school and I was driving home in the flip-flops. And I remember having such a go at God, like going, oh, I spent 20 years helping people and here I am and what are you doing? And I having a right rant at him, like seriously. But for the women, I get them to just sit honestly with their life. And most women, in my opinion, and in my own experience, have been taught to be very masculine. There is a massive wave of masculine women that we are so up here. And of course, we're going to have the powerful job and we're going to raise the children and have the immaculate home and we're going to work 5 times at the gym lifting weights, having the most perfect body. And then we wonder why we get to 50 and our body crumbles. And I always say it's an invitation to live a softer life. It's an invitation. For me, it was the only way I was going to heal was by getting back into my heart and feeling that love and connection to my body, to myself, to my husband, to my kids. I am such a better mum. And I always say the same as you. I am no different. I am not special. I've not got a special mutant gene. I've not got a superpower. The only superpower that I have is realizing that I am the awareness behind it all and that I choose. This is the thing. I choose not to live up here. I visit here. If I go do my accounts, I need to go back up in my head. Heart wants nothing to do with that. But most of the times I choose which voice do I listen to? Which energy do I want to be in? With somebody, it's a case of you might not like to hear what I have to say, but I'm not going to not say what I need to say or speak my truth because it's going to offend you. And ultimately, if it offends other people, that's their stuff. That's one of the things in Chi Flow is the main practice I get women is to start to just be in their body and in their environment. And you are not responsible for how somebody else is to react to that. If I went and punched somebody in the face, 100% that's on me. But if I'm here living at my best, healthy, loving, soft self, and that pisses you off because you're crippled with arthritis and you think I'm wrong, that's your stuff. And I'm not here to take your stuff. I'm here to speak my truth. The right people will hear it. Because if I take on all the trolls that have trolled me going, you've never had this, or even my video that I put up, which is it was a 90-minute video of the whole truth of everything I tried and errored in an attempt to help people. I mean, it's like no money. And they were going to me, how can you charge that? You would give it for free. Like, you're lying. Oh, But the chi flow is feel into your body and let everything around you just be. Just accept it. Accept that your husband's going to feel what he needs to feel. The kids need to go through what they need to do. And all you're responsible for is staying here in your heart. You're no good to anybody if you jump in their bodies and feel everything, or you try to fix that. And also, when we try to fix things, a lot of the times what we do is we delay their soul's growth. It's okay for my kids to feel anxious because they feel safe enough. I'm steady. But if I get anxious and worried, they're going to feel it. So it's like, let the women that can't hear your message not hear it yet. But maybe 2 years down the line, something will click and they'll go, do you remember that girl? She spoke about it being in me. So maybe I'll find that girl.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's a timing to life, right? If I had heard my message when I was first diagnosed, I don't know. I mean, I've always been a curious, spiritual person. So maybe it would have resonated, but I also feel like I would have felt some sort of overwhelm. It's different, right? It's a completely different paradigm from what we're taught, from what we just believe about health and illness, how we think of it. My podcast itself being called Sacred Illness is a paradox, because how are you pairing those two words together, right? People have said that to me too. I feel uncomfortable about you putting the word sacred next to the word illness. It stirs something up in us. I think it also kind of speaks to how we get sick in the first place, because we are so averse to discomfort, to pain, to badness. We shove it in our bodies, or we hold it in our bodies, or we don't know how to process it. Culturally, we don't know how to process it. We just try to live up here, pretend everything's fine, just keep going, just keep smiling, just keep working, just keep getting stronger, whatever that is. And we're just pushing down all the discomfort. And so to reframe illness, reframe potentially the worst thing that could ever happen to us as a good thing, is completely backwards to this cultural training we had around discomfort and so-called negativity and hard emotions. And then your work is so beautiful because it's about letting it move through you. It's not about not feeling. It's all about letting it move through you, letting it exist, but not letting it get stuck, and seeing it through this different perspective, seeing it from this higher perspective of understanding where it's coming from and why it's coming in and what to do with it, how to move with it, how to flow with it, versus to stuff it away again. And one of the hardest things is that pushback we get, family pushing back and being like, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing what the doctor's saying? Because there's so much fear in that too. And it comes from ultimately a place of love from family, at least. They want you to feel better and they want you to do what they think is correct. But I think it's profoundly brave and beautiful, the people who choose to listen to that voice, to take that different path. Because really, like you were saying earlier, what's the alternative? We know what we're being offered. That sounds terrible. So why would I at least not try to find a different path? And if it doesn't work, I haven't lost anything, essentially. So that's always what I'm talking about too, is the prognosis. What your doctors are telling you is what you could expect if you go down this path. So why not just try something else? When people hit me with that, you're telling people they're responsible for their illness or it's their fault, I always respond with, I know if I got a terminal diagnosis, I would pray that there was something else that I could do, that there was some way to heal it, that I had alternative options.
I spent over a year researching, trying stuff out. And if I had had somebody that could have just sat in front of me and gone, you can heal this, because I healed this. And these are the things that I tried and did, like go that way. Brilliant. I searched for ages to try and find people that had healed rheumatoid arthritis. Nobody wanted to touch me. Even a lot of mind, body, soul workers, TMS, I think they're called, they wouldn't touch me because rheumatoid arthritis was this real big scary thing, which made me even more fearful when even the holistic people won't touch me. They'll do fibromyalgia, they'll do thyroid, but they won't touch rheumatoid arthritis. And I think that's what I was so desperately looking for, was please show me somebody that's healed this without medication and has healed it for quite a long time. And then obviously months in, months after all of my research, there I finally did come across those two. And they're still fully okay and doing well. The vegan girl didn't stay vegan. I'm going to add that in because people always say to me, oh, she did it for a year. She says she woke up and was pain-free for the first time. It took her a year on that diet and that way of doing it. Now, the carnivore boy eats a bit more veg. So they both found their equilibrium, as I like to call it. But it was the biggest journey home. And although I had many times on my journey that I felt like I went 2 steps forward and then I went 3 steps back and the pain would come back in. And I many times had my head in my hands, or to my husband just going, oh, what am I doing? Maybe I should just take the medication. I thought it was working, but it's not working. What am I doing? And he used to just go, whatever you want to do. So I'd have about 24 hours and I'd just, okay, pick myself up. What's my next best step? What's my next best step? And I just kept going. But in all fairness, I'm so pleased that I went through it because, and I can look back now, years coming up to the RA, and it was what I was longing for, like what I was trying to find in the different yogas. I looked in all the different styles of yoga, trying to find this thing outside of me. 20 odd years I studied, and I think I was looking for was here. So the only way I was going to get here was to go through it so harsh that I was going to have to land in the heart. And because of that, it has changed my life. Do I still get moody sometimes? Yeah. Do I lose it? Yeah, but I bounce back quick. I just think we need more yin women are so very powerful if they can just get back into their bodies and find their softness and their flow and their gentleness and realize that their power is actually in their feminine energy and the soft life rather than the doing, the pushing, the striving. You're knackering yourself out. For what? Because you're being programmed, it's like, come here, find a practice that gets you back here. And I promise your relationship with your children is going to be so much more loving, with your partners, with people in your past. It doesn't mean I have those people in my life because they're still not in a good space. So I love myself that much, I won't have them in my space. People always get that if you live in your heart, you forgive everything and let everyone walk out. It's not truth. And in fact, I protect myself more, but in a loving way, not out of fear. It's like, I'm not going to have you treat me like that, right? Because I adore who I am. I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm good. So, yeah, I think it's a journey back to love. Love is the only thing that is going to heal the disease within the body. When I've had people with cancer come, a lot of the times it's because they are, bless them, like been in fight or flight for so long, masculine doing, or they've been not looking after themselves, loving themselves. And like Anita Morjana is an amazing lady on this. She has books and everything. She's come back from terminal cancer. She died and come back. And she says you treat cancer like it's a disease and it's something to be attacked and fought, but it's an opportunity to change your life. Love yourself, take care of yourself, love people, love life. Disease cannot live in my body if I am high frequency loving all the time. That's just my opinion, my journey, and what I feel keeps me well.
This conversation we're having is so perfect for where I'm at in my own mindset, my own work personally with my clients, figuring out why you got sick. What's that mind-body connection? What was the nervous system wounding? That kind of more sciencey side of things. It's so helpful and validating for so many of us. We do want and need that sort of evidence of why is my body doing this beyond it's genetics, because if our diet is good, if we never smoked, it's like, what the hell is going on? And so I think having that explanation can help. Like, okay, this is what got programmed into your body. Your body's being flooded with cortisol all the time. These are the messages that are running through your system. This is what your body's holding. These are the experiences it's holding. This is what it's responding to. That is so helpful and so validating. That's what a big chunk of my work is focused on, is helping people get to that point of understanding this is what is causing your illness. And I'm now evolving it forward into that second piece of, okay, what do you do with that? How do you take that knowledge and don't just continue to be the same person, but know why you're that person? And how do you begin to embody a different self, embody the self that we are, right? We are that more heart-centered being. We are that love energy, that higher frequency.
Remembering rather than a learning. I kept trying to learn that, thinking I had to be more love, be more peaceful, be more calm, be more. And that's a trick of the mind. I spent a long time trying to be more calm, be more loving, be more peaceful. That means I'm still trying to do. And actually, the essence, that is who I am. So it's more of a sitting back. And again, like yoga was always stand front and activated with chi flow. It's a softness sitting back into the body. I already am the love, the calm, the peace, the soft. That is me. My awareness is pure love. So that means I'm already whole and complete as I am. So there is nothing for me to do other than stay in this frequency as much as you can. When you are a mum and a business, and I've got dog poo to pick up in the garden before clients. I'm like, I have a real normal life. I've got toilets to clean before they come in the morning. Like, I've still got to function in his life. In the morning, I practice my chi flow. And when I'm calm, these wisdoms come through me because I'm in a state of being able to receive it. One of the biggest epiphanies I ever felt happened as I went to the hairdressers to drop my stuff off. I thought, I'm going to go to the shop. I've got half an hour. I'm walking along a busy road. And as I'm walking along, boom. I'd had a really good chi flow practice that morning where chi flow is very much, I get the girls to, like you're saying about the mind, I get them to really step into understanding that you're aware of the mind. Most people can aware of the mind, not the heart at the start. And it's like, look, I'm not the anger. I am not the judgment. I'm not any of that that's going on. I am within. I get them to step into this. So I went to the shop and I'm walking on this busy road and I was in such a frequency of I'm in love with life. And in that come, I am love. That was my big breakthrough. I felt it in every fiber of like, I am love. And it almost took my breath and went, oh my God, I'm love. Like, so there could never be anything wrong with me. Like, there could never be anything wrong with me. Like, I'm already whole and not am I just love. I am all the love that I need. And then boom, that come in at another level of going, so I don't actually need my husband or even my kids, which I know sounds weird, but I don't actually need my kids to love me because I already am that love. They're like the icing that make my cake the most beautiful cake in the world. But I'm already that love. And then what that does is that frees them from having to be a certain way or a certain being to please me or keep me feeling good because I'm good. I'm just good. And the only way for me is constantly every day a practice that kept bringing me back into this softness of my heart, this sudden realization that me trying to fix or work stuff out all the time, it was not needed. All it was needed was for me to come here and realize and settle in the remembering of who I am, who I was before I come here, who I'm going to be the moment I leave here. I'm not taking any of those stories or any of that science with me. You know what? I'm just going to go as love. And so therefore, all I'm to do is to stay in this frequency, listen to this heart, and then let everything work out. And if I was not to be here next week, I'm happy because what I've learned since I was 37 has been the biggest souling thing. All the work that I was doing and engaging and studying gurus and scriptures, let all that go, is my opinion. You know what? Because sometimes it just gives you too much food in your mind. It's not the mind you need to feed, it's your heart.
I love the way that you are framing this. It's really showing us too how quickly things can change because your journey is very quick, right? From diagnosis to no symptoms is very quick. And I also very much appreciate the fact that it wasn't just like once you got on the path, it was up and up and up and up. Like you were describing, there was setbacks, doubts, fears, there were flare-ups, all of the things that happened. But you said the softer and the slower I got, the more my symptoms calmed down. And it's so simple. It's so simple. In theory, overall, the whole journey was this simplification of how you were living your life and how you were showing up in your body, continuously disengaging or letting go of that overcomplication that the mind can bring of reading and studying and pulling in all these, like you said, our mind gets too full of all these things. And it was truly this process of becoming softer and slower. And again, it's not that it was easy and it wasn't without hardship and setback, but truly at its core, I think healing is so much simpler than we make it out to be. It's just releasing rather than piling on all these complicated diets and protocols and gadgets and things we now do to measure our vitals or whatever. It's so much simpler than all of that. And I think your story just so beautifully exemplifies that.
It's an unlearning. I view it as I spent up to the age of nearly up to 40 learning, and the last 2 years have been unlearning it all. And it's also trusting your power. When you can get the connection here to start to feel, it's a different flavor, a frequency. When you build that relationship, it's like building a muscle. If you go there every day and start finding that, then that now is my voice. Regardless if I've got a guy in a white jacket telling me, wow, you need to eat this, or you need to go lift weights 5 days a week. Like, whew, okay, does that feel good for me? No. Okay, so although thank you very much for your science and great, but that's not where I'm going to be headed with it. I fought to be vegan for so very long. It took a long time for me to accept it did not work in my body. But I always think, if I say to the girls, if you want to find the evidence that vegan is the best diet out there, you'll find it. If you want to find the best evidence that carnivore is, you'll find it. Like, you're going to find whatever you want out there. Your job is not to keep going out there. It's to come in here. And it starts with learning to feel. It's a beautiful journey, but it's a practice because it's something you do every day. If you're just going to do meditation, you're leaving out all this body. If you're just going to focus on the physical of yoga, then you're missing out on using the mind. When I get you feeling first, I deal with the emotions. Then I get you to use your mind to bring the words in. I feel so relaxed, so calm. The goal at the end of the class is that you start to feel love for all the people in your life, and love for life, and then life loving you. That's the goal. At the end of my chi flow, I physically worked you out a little, got you calm enough that you can use the heart, feeling, and your mind to work as one, to start to visualize, to feel a new way of being, and to let go of any negative story from your past. I don't care what's happened to you. We've all got it. Some people have had worse than others, but keep going back into finding stuff. For me, is like picking scabs off. Just send it love, let it go. It happened for you for a reason. You probably won't know till you die and you stood with God and he goes, well, that's why. And you go, shit, how didn't I see it? Well done.
I love that. I wrote a post about that. I woke up at 2 a.m. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I just like this thing came into my brain. I was like, I have to write about this. It's a bad idea to do that at 2 a.m. But it was about this. It was about healing is ultimately this journey of being, not doing. It's becoming yourself, which is just a state of being. It's just flow. I love your medicine that you now bring into the world because it so well embodies what this is. It is this flow state of letting yourself be who you are, letting things flow through you, letting yourself flow through yourself unfiltered. It's where we're hiding or masking or suppressing or lying to the world and lying to ourselves about who we are. That makes us sick. And of course, when we get there for understandable reasons, we get programmed to show up differently than who we really are because of life. But the journey is about just being, just existing, just living life and being in this place of love and safety and security and connection with who we are. If you look at the wellness world, it's so focused on doing and do this protocol and do this thing. And it just constantly is not only taking us out of our bodies, but it's disconnecting us from our power, or it's disempowering to constantly feel like I have to do something. I have to pay money to access the health that I want. I have to go somewhere or talk to this person or do this thing. And, obviously we need to work with people in order to find the modalities that heal us. I'm going to totally look into your work when this is all done and see what I can do with you. We need the guide, the people who have walked the talk. But ultimately, I will say this about my work. I'll say this about anyone who's doing this kind of work. If you're working with someone and their goal is for you to rely on them, like, I have the secrets, I'm healing you, you need me, that is not it. They should be teaching you something that helps you heal yourself, that reconnects you to yourself. And you said that with your own work, you're reconnecting people with themselves. That's true medicine. Anything that's bringing you back to yourself, to your own power, that's giving you the skills and the tools, that's truly healing. And I think it's clear to listeners who you have become as a result of your illness. But I always like to ask people this question at the end of the podcast, which is, who did your illness invite you to become, or who is it inviting you to become? How would you answer that?
Yeah, so if I look at I call it the pre-COVID years, I was always good and always had good intentions, but I was quite harsh, quite judgmental, critical on myself. I had to be the best at everything, perfection, like you wouldn't believe. Couldn't just be a yoga teacher. Had to train to be the best yoga teacher. And this was an invitation for me to soften, to open, and to get into my heart. It was about, how much can I love? How much can I be in love? How much can I remember that I am loved? So what I've always wanted was to search for, who am I? Like, why am I here? Who is God? Does God exist? All those questions I always had. And when I realized, walking on that street, that I am the love. And therefore it's so freeing, because, no offense, I don't need you to like me. I don't need the audience to like me. And when you love yourself that much, it was an invitation home. It was also an up-leveling for me as a soul with my medicine here. I've done the years of what my soul wanted to do being a teacher, as a yoga teacher. My soul needed me to let go of all of that stuff, any anger, any judgment. And I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. I don't ever expect to be perfect. But every time I'm getting closer to embodying that love even more, I had to up level to help people, so where I am now, I don't think it's a patch on where I'll be in 5 years. My soul needs me to peel off the layers of that onion, let it go even more, so I am then able to offer my medicine to people. And that's been my goal. When I set the website out with the courses, was literally my goal is to slow women down, get them slow again, because women are beautiful. We're all beautiful souls. And I see so many women full of anger. And all that woman needs is somebody to go, I've got you, I love you. Let's just slow down and breathe. That's it. Because ultimately, everybody in their own way is trying to get love. That's what every single person walking past me in the street is after. Whether you're having a tantrum as a toddler or a teenager's getting mad at you, I'm guaranteeing you all that person is after is the fact that they don't feel loved and they're trying to get it in some form. So it's an invitation. My soul massively needed to grow in this lifetime to be able to just help women slow down, feel and understand that the love effort you're needing is in you, and it's not going to be in the husband. They're lovely to have, and the kids are lovely to have, and my best friend is amazing to have. I would not want to be without them, but I don't need them to love on me or build me up every day for me to feel love. I can feel that myself. And that's the goal, really. If you've got that in yourself, then you're not subject to the outer environment, and you're not putting pressure on the people you love to be a certain way, or the house to be a certain way, or everything to be done so you can get 5 minutes of peace. I feel truly grateful that I'm only 42 and I have got these learnings and these things happened. So I'm really hoping the rest of it goes nicely. In 5 years, I don't get this whole little voice thing going, oh, time to move again. Oh, no, I'm happy.
Yeah,
but
I've done
it
enough.
will come. No, it will come. And I don't know, it'll ask me to be something else and I'll be, oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, you've done enough evolution for one lifetime, but it sounds like for whatever reason, you are a soul that is just here to keep expanding and teaching and being an example for us. And so I will put all the links down below, but tell us what you're doing. You've mentioned courses, you have your website. Tell us what you're offering so people can find you and start to plug into this amazing work that you're doing now.
Oh, bless you. Okay, so I'm on Instagram, which is QI. My website is soulwavestudio.com. And I have a really cheap video on there. If anybody, I mean, you pretty much got my story on here, but if you want to know more of the other stuff, there's a really cheap video on there that I did to just take out the overwhelm of too much searching. I spent thousands and over a year of my life wasted. Not wasted because it helps other people now, but it was a long slog. And then I have an online chi flow training course. It's really good, actually. And it talks all this sort of stuff, as well as breaks down 17 of my most famous forms, simple ones, for you to then start to develop your own practice. I am looking at doing a mentorship, but only taking 3 people on at a time. At the moment, I've got it kind of laid out on paper, like how it would look. So that will come. But it's the online training. That's the best thing if you want to get started. Give that a go and see if you can get into this feeling state a whole lot more. And the only thing I ask, that I've kept this really reasonably cheap price, that even all my yoga friends have gone, what are you charging? That's not enough. I ask that you share it. As in, like, if you start to feel better, if you start to feel that connection to God, to Source, that you speak and share. Because how I would like this is to be every woman and even men doing chi flow in the home. Every house has got someone practicing chi flow, and it makes a wave of the yin, a wave of the calm, of the love coming back into what's been a very hot, overheated planet right now. Just pay it forward is what I ask.
Absolutely. I love that. And I'm so grateful to have this connection. Thank you, Lizzie, if you're listening, for this connection. Thank you, Teresa, so much for your time, for making time for this. I know it's probably well past dinner time, and I'm sorry for making you late for your family, but I'm so grateful for your time, for your energy, for your story, your medicine. Very, very grateful for talking with you today.
Oh, thank you. No, honestly, it's my soul's journey now, and I'm grateful that you popped up and went, hey, will you come on? Because again, there's a reason for that, for whoever's listening. I'm really grateful for you contacting me, and Lizzie. I will send her a message to thank her.
Absolutely. Everyone, thanks for listening to another episode of the Sacred Illness Podcast, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Sacred Illness Podcast. If you find this information shared here inspirational and educational, please share it with those you think would benefit from this work. To take this work deeper yourself, check out our website, www.aurorasomatic.com, where you can explore our coaching, community, and course options. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel where new content is coming out all the time, intended to inspire, awaken, and help you deepen your relationship with yourself, your life, and your world. We'll see you next time.